Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Torriero. I'm joining you from Tentramar, New Brunswick, where PARC hosts their annual Playwrights retreat. And today I am joined by Ameer Idreis, the author of the play Ships in the Night. Ameer, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Laura. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it's been a great day. Um, so we had a few questions for you. First of all, how has being a part of this retreat influenced your writing process?
Yeah, this retreat has been really helpful for just seeing these 2 weeks is these are writing, editing weeks, weeks to think about this play. I know, just as a writer who does other things, has a full-time job that's not in theater or in writing, you're always being pulled in different ways, and it's really nice to be very intentional these 2 weeks that, I am meeting new playwrights, the other, fellow participants in the retreat, working with dramaturges and getting to hear my play read. So I had my play reading yesterday,
Mhm.
and that was so instrumental. I came out of it with so many new thoughts and new ideas and things I want to edit, write, rewrite. Um, so yeah, it's been great. It's been great, and I think really instrumental to this play.
I'm so glad it's been so valuable. And I do have to say I was here for your reading. And it was it's such a beautiful script, and I fell in love with so many characters. It was absolutely lovely. So next, tell us about your script. Why was it important to tell this story?
Yeah, so Ships in the Night tells the story of Omar, who is a young Palestinian gay man who is new to Toronto and new to dating too. And his friends are super excited. They want to hear about this date. And the way the play is sort of set, especially in the beginning, is you see, through the retelling of that first date, Omar and Isaac, who's the other participant in the date, you see the date unfolding and the friends commenting and sort of picking things apart or making, fun of Omar. And it's a fun sort of dynamic, and so that was my first that was really like the first image I had when thinking about this play and creating this play. But the real sort of plot twist or the tension arises when Isaac mentions that he's been to Israel on birthright and Omar is Palestinian, and so naturally there's questions that come up around there. What what does it mean to believe certain things, grow up in different environments, coming from different backgrounds? How much is sort of fixed and unchangeable? How much is about identity versus who you are, what you think, what you do? So that's sort of like the main thread of the play. It's always funny being asked to, summarize the play or sort of explain what it is. Every time I feel like, wait, but I didn't mention this thing, or I'm
Yeah.
still sort of working my elevator pitch for the play. Um, but yeah, and like ultimately, I think the reason why I wanted to tell this story and why I wrote Ships in the Night is um, I think like I use my writing to think through
Mhm.
questions I have and to really try like tackle complex things that I'm sort of wrestling with. And I think like especially now, and I first wrote this play, I at least wrote the first two acts back, I think in 2022, end of 2022, I want to say. Um, but when I first wrote it, it's like Palestine is sort of in and out of the news,
Mhm.
and has been for decades,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I always thought, okay, this play is exploring an interesting thing between these two young men. And I think, like, I'm biased in saying this because I am Palestinian, but I think we need more authentic Palestinian stories and stories that also portray Palestinians in the diaspora, in the West, in Canada, like this play does, and really thinking about, okay, well, what are the Palestinian stories that aren't being told? And so I think there's definitely like there's definitely certain perceptions in society about who Palestinians are. Um, and the story of like a young queer Palestinian guy who is still dealing with the traumas of occupation, of the Nakba, of what's, ongoing in Palestine is so important, but especially now, um, post October 7, with this renewed wave of the genocide in Gaza and, with annexation in the West Bank. So I think for so many reasons, I wanted to tell the story. And I think with the current political climate and what's going on in Palestine, it's even more important for
Yeah.
me to tell the story. So super thankful to Park, and also to Theatre Pass Marai, where I'm developing this play further, for their support and for just allowing me time and space and getting to hear actors read the play, because now I get to really think about, okay, well, there's so much here. What's the story I want to tell? And yeah, hopefully, the ideal is to have a production mounted and to have audiences really engage with the play. Um, yeah, so that's a bit of a summary of Ships in the Night and why I wanted to write this play.
Yeah, that's really amazing and so important, as you mentioned, in today's climate, and really important to tell more diverse stories, and yeah, it's so crucial, and it was such a lovely experience.
Mhm.
And I fully get you on the summarizing thing, because I want to like shove in every detail that I can, because every detail counts. And that's why people should read the play whenever, I'm
Mhm.
just saying.
Mhm.
But yeah, detail very much counts. So I get you on that. It's very tough to really pinpoint one thing that your play's about, because it deals with so many different themes, and yeah, I fully get you on that. Our next question is, who or what inspires you as a writer?
Yeah, this is a really good question. Um, I feel like when I think about the what inspires me, I
Mhm.
mean, art inspires me, and usually the type of art that inspires me is art that I can't make. And
Mm,
I don't know what that says. I think I love music. I think music is one of the forms of art that really inspires me and I feel most drawn to. I am not, talented in music. I can't make music. Um, and although I've tried, I'll like download GarageBand and like try to give it a go. And like this is, I do not have the skill set for this. But I think, yeah, like music really touches me and inspires me because of how evocative and emotional it can be and how vulnerable it can be. And I think, across all types of art, what really inspires me is storytelling that feels really authentic, that feels like it's from the heart. And like something that in my own writing, I think sometimes I will default to trying to filter things or translate them for the audience, thinking, okay, well, this experience is so personal to me. Let me try find analogies or metaphors or, you know, in my other play, The Walls and Closing, I have characters who speak both English and Arabic.
mhm.
And what I found myself doing is I'll write the Arabic and then have the character repeat it in English right after. So they'd be like,
Mhm.
Habibi, my love, and then they'd
Yeah.
continue. And one of the um like most actionable, easiest sort of notes I got and took was drop the translation. Like, you don't have to filter. You don't have to think, okay, well, what if the audience doesn't get this thing? They'll get it through context. They'll get, the
Mhm.
feelings. And if they don't get it, so what? At least it's still the story you want it to tell. And so I'm so inspired by that kind of art and that kind of work where it's like, okay, I don't know where the author or the artist is coming from, but I can tell that they really put their heart and soul into this thing. Um, and yeah, I've seen like so many wonderful like shows and read books where it's like, okay, this is really you in, art form. Um, and that inspires me. That's something I think I'm always working toward, is really wanting to feel like I'm sort of like encapsulating something about myself or something, a certain view I have, or capturing something from a perspective that I think other people might appreciate in their own way.
Yeah, always hard to write something without thinking or do anything really without thinking about what the people, especially when it's your own work, like writing and things like that, it's so hard not to think about how the audience, how the readers are going to feel if they're going to understand everything. And it's so hard not to think about the other people's point of views and like comprehension of everything. But yeah, I think it's a lovely inspiration to really and a lovely thing to keep in mind that
Mm.
you're writing what you want to say and it's not about what other people are going to think about it, but you're writing from a truthful place. That's really beautiful. The last question that we have is how do you write? Is there anything specific about your process that you'd like to talk about or highlight?
Yeah, I feel like writers love to talk about the way they write or their
Mhm.
process, and it's always fun. And actually, this was part of the retreat where I know we sat down, sort of had the playwrights come together, and we talked through our approaches to writing, and if we're feeling stuck, like what do we do? And writer's block is such like a recurring theme and an obstacle that I know writers come across. For me, I think I've I'm always changing the way I write. Like sometimes, like in the past with like novels or things that are, sort of like longer form, like prose. Sometimes I've just like pantsed it where I just kind of write whatever and I don't
Mm,
have a structure and I just sit down and think, okay, well, what's happening now? And just kind of write. And then going back and kind of trying to add the foreshadowing and make it work in a way that makes it seem like I knew what was happening all along. Um, Other times I've had a spreadsheet where I was like really detailing, like in this chapter, this happens. And I think where I am right now is I love following what is calling to me. So I used to think, okay, well, I should really try like write chronologically, but sometimes I'm feeling really drawn to a specific scene or the ways a lot of times when I'm starting a play or any kind of piece of writing. I have a certain like tableau or image or some interaction, some like, couple lines of dialogue, a back and forth that I feel really strongly about and feel like, okay, I really want to get there. And instead of like trudging through setup and introduction or whatever, I'm like, let me write what I feel most drawn to. And I think it's all about like the going for the approach that enables you to have that like creative flow where writing isn't always fun, or writing can be really hard. It can come, um, more slowly and with a bit more like pain and struggle, where you're like, okay, well, what happens next? And really have to like take a break and think about it. But when you have this idea, it's like lightning in a bottle, where you're like, okay, I want to write a scene where there are two characters and they have an argument about the specific thing, but first I have to do something else. My approach right now is just write what I'm excited about.
yeah.
And if I get stuck, I go for a walk and I talk to myself. I'll either talk to myself out loud or I'll just like talk into my phone into a voice memo and at least have that to look back on if I need it. But usually just walking and talking is so helpful to get over
Mhm.
a roadblock in a story or thinking through, okay, well, what's this character's sort of background or what are their goals and dreams? Um, Talking through things usually works for me. So I think that's my sort of secret weapon, although it's not so secret. I feel like lots of writers and lots of people in general love to just go on walks to help get ideas flowing.
Yeah, going for walks and talking to yourself, I also relate to a lot whenever I'm feeling stuck on like anything. It just helps clear your mind and if you're talking to yourself, no one's gonna interrupt you, that's for sure. Except
True.
maybe your next thoughts, but like
They think you're on a phone call. They'll just let you keep walking. It's
yeah,
fine.
it's truly wonderful. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share or talk about? Maybe about the retreat, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of already mentioned this, but I think my time at the retreat has been wonderful. I was there in person
Mhm.
sort of earlier last week, and now I'm completing it virtually, and it really has been such a great time. And I think I've made really good connections with playwrights. I'm from Ontario, and so getting to go out east and meet some fantastic playwrights from the Atlantic provinces have been amazing, and new connections that I otherwise wouldn't have made. So yeah, I'm just really grateful to have been, to be part of PARC, to be part of this retreat, and yeah, I really appreciate getting the chance to talk to you today.
Yeah, and we're so appreciative of you being here and you talking to me and just you being a part of this retreat. It's been so wonderful to have you. Yeah, thank you so much, Amir.